All right, so I took a look at your lift, and for me, the main thing that I would like you to fix is like kind of having a system to your setup and giving yourself a break when you're pulling from the floor. So in the snatch and in the clean, your setup, your pre-setup, your initial pull off the floor, it should all be kind of like a hedge so that you can really get to the brunt of the lift, which is the extension, which is the second portion. So you want to best set yourself up. It's not, what happens with a lot of people if they do like static type of starts or they start with their shoulders way behind the bar, they're trying to be in the perfect position, but what they're sacrificing is the later stages of the pull. And I'll kind of explain more of what I'm seeing. I'm going to pull up your lifts here, and then I'm going to go to a share screen. Okay. You come from almost like a static start here.
Yeah.
And almost immediately, the way that you're able to get what you want out of the lift is can you see my mouse?
Yeah.
You take your elbows and you get this big jam back here, and you take your shoulder blades and you get this big jam back here. And what you're doing is you're putting the entirety of the lift on those tiny little muscle groups in right in here. When you should be solidifying this and setting yourself up so that you only use your legs and, the musculature around the hips to pull in that initial phase.
Okay.
The stuff where you start seeing more upper body, control and starting to really use the upper body needs to come later. Okay. So what you need to do is you need to set yourself up so that you don't have to resort to that. So let me show you what I'm talking about. See that? So like almost immediately, this elbow, I can see just goes back.
Yeah.
Tension is all right here.
Yeah.
And what we need to do is develop tension in here, here, here. You're almost not even using your legs at this point. You are using them, right? You wouldn't be able to even lift the bar off the floor, but you're not intentionally using them. And I'll explain more. This is just a pull. We'll run that back one more time. I think the pull itself isn't that bad, but so this one actually, what's interesting is the way that you pick this bar up just to get into the hang is how I would like you to almost start thinking about pulling off the floor. So the way that you pick that bar up without this little kick out at the beginning. So what I would do is your eyes are forward, and that's great in this pre-setup position. Mm-hmm. What you need to do is and this, again, this is a hang rep, so it doesn't really matter, right? You're trying to get to the hang first before you do anything. Take a very noticeable breath here, and all you got to do is lower the hips a tiny, tiny bit. What you do is you really lower them a ton, and the bar kicks out first movement.
Yeah. See
that? It's just like a little roll. I know this is just a hang, but that's going to be something that you'll run into. It rolls out in front, and then it swoops back in. Mm-hmm. But here, one thing is right there's a little dip. So right here, you can just keep going down instead of dipping with the hips down. Like right here, there's a little,
I was going to ask you about.
Yeah, there's a little whoop there. See that? Yeah. You don't need that.
Okay.
Because what you're trying to do there is develop speed really early, and you don't need to. Like you're trying to turn the corner on the eccentric portion with the lowering, and you're trying to go fast right away. The changing from eccentric to what you could call the concentric or the actual lifting portion, it doesn't have to be fast, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
So like this motion right here, sorry, we'll get back to like right there. See that? Boom. Mm-hmm. That is too fast. So there's a discernible thing you need to fix is slow that portion down, and it doesn't even really have to exist. So when you decide to turn from eccentric to concentric, slow that down, and you'll fix that right away. But what I'm seeing here is like, most people are going to be better from the low hang because they're starting from that posture. Okay. Mm-hmm. Right. Same thing. Look at how compromised you are when you set up. Hold on. Look at it. So your shoulders fully rotated around the bar. It's like out like this.
Mm-hmm.
Your low back is rounded, and it's all because the way that you set up. Look at how folded over you are.
Okay. Yeah.
Remember, our end goal is this.
Yeah.
This is our end goal, and you're making it incredibly difficult to get there.
Okay.
With this round low back. And look at the angle here. I wish I had like a little marker, but like look at this crazy angle you're creating.
It's like 20%.
Yeah, you need to you need to give yourself a break, man. You need to really like the whole thing, like the setup is so important in these lifts, and I think people just overlook them.
Mm-hmm.
And this is what the pros do so well, is they have this setup that it's so in tune that we overlook it because they overlook it. This is a lighter snatch, right?
That's like 110, I think. Yeah. So.
Yeah, same thing.
87% or something.
So like, look at how you set up. Super compromised. I mean, look at this low back is underneath you.
Mm-hmm.
We can fix this. And when you fix this and get this start down, you can start changing things up. Okay. This video right here, it's Andre Aram now. And this is what Russians do very well. They do what I like to call like crowding the bar. You basically get a lot of your body weight on top of it, over the front of it, and you really pin your toes down.
Okay.
And then what you can do from this over the top position is start to leverage your way up. And what I want you to do is kind of systematically be able to unround your back. And really, if you can, like set yourself up so that you don't make it hard to accomplish what you want to accomplish. When you grab the bar with that super rounded spine, you make it very hard to open up and pull.
Okay.
So a couple ways to combat that, but I'll show you what I'm looking at with Andre Aram now. So we'll just watch this full lift. Okay. He does a double here. So his approach to the start, right? So it looks like he's in a very compromised position, but we're going to call this his setup. This is his setup. But look at how much body is over this bar. Do you understand how, like, his knees are forward, right? But look, his shoulders are in front of his knees. Yeah. If we take this bar away and we just touch him, he's going to fall on his face. But you can see, this is one thing that you had, right? Like his shoulders, like they're loose, but he wants to go up. So it's crowd the bar with this really rigid back, but we're going up with it. And what you'll notice, and I want you to take a look right here at his toes. Look at that. His heels even come off the goddamn floor. Crowds it. He's got so much leverage on the bar here.
Okay. Yeah.
Do you understand? Like, and so much so that his heels start coming off the floor. Okay.
Yeah. That's the opposite of what I do. When I pass the knee, my toes come up and I'm just so
right
out of balance.
So I'll show you like kind of my system that I set up in. I'm a little bit longer of an athlete, but look, so already my knees are over the top of the bar. The weight is on my toes. I've already taken my breath. You do a good job of this. Your eyes are forward. That's great. Okay. But what you don't do a good enough job is crowding the bar. All right. I'm over the top, very, very far forward. And you might even be able to see like space underneath my heels. Mm-hmm. I take my breath in and it's like a noticeable. And then from here, I keep that pressure on my toes, but I lower my hips just enough. Actually, I rock back onto my heels. But I know that what I'm doing is I leverage everything. So watch when I'm at my right at my knees. So what you'll see here is I'm actually rocking to the outside of my foot. It looks like my toes are coming up, but it's actually just rocking to the outside of the foot.
Yeah.
So that's something that helps me personally. And actually, if you look at Andre here, watch his knees out to the side. See that?
Mm-hmm.
So he's actually put pressure out to the side of his foot, and he's just so ridiculous that his heels end up coming off the ground. I don't really suggest doing that,
No.
but you can see the pressure on the outside of my foot here. Let's see one more here. Just one of the 90s. Pop, catch. Okay. So that's like the system that you need to have in place on the snatch, at least for now, right? Is, like I said, over the top of the bar. Let's say this is the bar right here, the mic.
Yeah.
Your shoulders need to be over the top of the bar, and your knees might be slightly back behind the shoulders. See that? Shoulders, knees, open chest. Then what you can do is take a breath from this position, take your hips, and kind of wedge them and go.
Okay. So,
Does that make sense?
yeah.
At the end of the day, get your knees out to the side so that instead of thinking, because what can happen if you lower your hips like that is the bar can start to kick out off the floor.
Which is what happens on every single rep I do. The bar starts when you
starts
look at my
kicking
bar
out.
Path, it swoops
You cannot
out
let
and
it
swoops back in.
Yeah, you have to find a way to manipulate your body to not have that happen. And that's the way that I've systematically set it up. Any questions on that?
No. Yeah, that sounds pretty good. Yeah.
Okay. So your knees can be further forward, but it's basically like you need to be out over the top more.
Okay.
Like, and then what you can start to do is peel everything up.
Okay. So then start to pull my chest up. Once
So
I've kind of got
this bar, what
over.
you need to first off, where do you line the bar up?
I was lining it up over kind of right over kind of my midfoot, and now I've kind of shifted to going out a little bit closer towards the ball of my foot.
Okay, yeah. It should be at the ball of your feet.
Yeah. Okay.
And then what you can do is kind of start to, again, crowd the bar and pull up. Then from here, you take that breath and you kind of just keep, it's like, so your shoulders would be kind of here now. Because you need to stretch this out. Your knees might be like here now. Then what you're going to do is you're going to take that breath in and you're going to go up and down with the hips, that little, tiny little dynamic start. But you're going to keep your shoulders in the same way or same place. Shoulders and head, basically. It's going to be like if you take a pigeon and you hold it and the head kind of stays in the same place.
Yeah.
Your body weight's going to be on top of the bar and you're just going to take that breath and stay and then go. Because what you're able to do with this is kind of wedge yourself in. The only issue is if you start to wedge your hips forward, because what's going to happen to the bar off the floor? It's going to start going forward with you.
So I kind of knew that my initial lift was my biggest issue coming in. So is adjusting my start position, do you think that will help fix that?
Yes. So like when you get to your knee, you're
a little bit lower. You can see my toes kind of come up, and this is actually when my shoulders are the farthest forward. So I've always been confused about how
it's not about shoulder. It's not about
shoulders are more
over. No, it's not about shoulders being forward at this position. If your shoulders are in front of the bar, you get into this position and it's no good.
Yeah.
You want the shoulders in just maybe a hair in front. It's all about leverage, right? So you're trying to create as much torque as you can. But if you create too much leverage on one side of the bar and then on the other, you start to run into problems. So like when we pause on Aram now right here, like his shoulders are pretty much stacked, but there's just as much pressure in front and behind the bar. And they're creating this leverage and it just explodes vertically. It's all the way that he sets himself up. Like literally your setup is everything in weightlifting. And it's not just like the setup is like the setup to the actual point of weightlifting. The point of weightlifting, like by and large, is from halfway up the thigh to the hip. Halfway up the thigh to about like the belly button. And that explosion that happens between then, that's all weightlifting is. So what you need to do is find a way to get to that position in the best way possible.
Yeah.
Okay. So like what you're doing here is like from the jump, you're setting yourself up to be in a very hard, like very tough spot. Over the top, eyes up, breath. and go.
Yeah. Okay.
Okay?
Mhm.
And push, get those toes down, get those knees out to the side. What people think is like throw the knees back. You don't create any of that torque in the hip. Like your knees kind of lock into this forward position, and if you push them back, there's no like snappiness to the leg. If you kind of pull your knees out to the side and keep that pressure mid-foot, like hedging, because when this bar leaves your hips, or maybe even slightly before it, where's the pressure in your foot?
In my toes.
In your toes.
Towards the front of my
So
foot,
if it has to end there, if I get the weight all the way back in your heels, so much so that the toes start flaring up, what are we doing on the foot?
We're just rocking back and forth.
Yeah. Rocking back and forth. We just want to go up. So the point is, if I can just push through this midfoot and it slightly comes back and then goes, so like, let's say this is the pressure of the lift. I push down and it just slightly goes back and then it comes back. I get that big whip. But if I turn my feet into blocks and the pressure goes, you're not pushing at all off the floor. Okay?
Yeah.
And again, a guy like Aram now like does this like almost to an extreme degree, to a point where like I wouldn't even suggest it, but it really does show you that the pressure in the foot like never really needs to shift to the degree that I think people think it does. We'll watch him one more time and that'll be it. All right.
Okay, cool.
I love how far in front of the bar he gets, man. And then all he has to do is pull vertically. Like, look at that.
Yeah.
Big breath. Straight up. Like he's even like he just goes straight up. It really is a thing of beauty, man. All right.
Awesome. Thanks, man. That's super helpful.